For the success of the SDGs, many are asking for the elimination of government bureaucracy.
We have that, you know, the Goal 17 talks about building partnerships. Of course, in a national setting, the government takes the lead. The government, like in Nigeria's situation, the federal government, and then the state government, and even at local government, they will take the lead. But the private sector has a role to play, civil society has a role to play, the religious institutions have a role to play, youth and women have roles to play, and the media has a role to play. While the government takes the lead, because the government really has most of the resources that you need to implement development activities. But we need all actors to be involved. That's why we have that Goal 17. In fact, not only the local, the national actors, even international actors, those who support development work in Nigeria, should align now themselves with these sustainable development goals. Civil society, the media, and other actors will keep this interest so that they keep government at all levels in check, to ask them frequently, are we really making progress on these goals? If we are not, what can we do? Well, are you putting enough resources in the areas that are of priority importance for us? So for me, I think the Sustainable Development Goals are so important if we want to change the world as it is today.
You could see the passion of our people. You could see that we are ready to work with governments. You could see that we want an improvement in the lives of our people. You know, CSOs, we are kind of the voice of the people. We know what the people feel. We're in the communities. We hear their cry. And we take this cry to government. So we are hopeful that we will not allow the government just to take the SDGs as we did the MDGs. So we're going to work with government. We're going to collaborate with government to see that development comes to the lives of our people.
And by 2030?
Yes.
We will be smiling, or
yes.
will be like frowning?
No, we will not frown. Of course, we will smile. And our communities will be a better place for it.
Whereas the MDGs consisted of 8 goals supported by 21 specific targets and 60 indicators, there are currently 17 SDGs comprising 169 targets. The number of indicators has yet to be set, but there are likely to be hundreds. The sheer number of goals, targets, and indicators has prompted some to worry that the SDGs will be a hard sell.
Well, I would say it is the enormity of the problem, the enormity of the challenges. In fact, you know, when we had the 8 Millennium Development Goals, people were saying, oh, you left out this, you left out this issue, you left out the issue of water. How can you not talk about water? You left out the issues of cities. Many people now are going to, how can we have sustainable cities? You left out the issue of democratization. So all these things have been coming up that, okay, you can't just talk about hunger. You can't just talk about education. All these are important. Those are what are called people goals. The people goals, education, health, food, and so on. But you also have to have the prosperity goals, the goals which have to do with building the economy, employment, generating employment for especially the young people. You also have to have goals which have to do with the planet, to make sure that we have sustainable consumption on this planet. You also have to have a goal on peace. Where there is no peace, you can't even talk about development. So the problem became so complex and enormous. That's why the goals and targets are many. But as I said, each country now has to go back and say, okay, out of 169 targets, what are our priorities? And even within the country, like in Nigeria, each state should go back and say, okay, for us, maybe in education we are doing better. But a challenge we have maybe is nutrition, which is goal number 2. What can we do to improve nutrition for the young people, for the children in our communities? Maybe we are doing well with poverty, our people are not so poor, but how about the environment? So you will realize that out of the 17, maybe you may need to focus more strongly on 5. So the priority setting has to come in now. I agree it's an ambitious program. It has to be, because the program is big, the problem we are trying to solve around the world.
For David, the SDGs are inclusive and good enough for people with disabilities. However, he says the government has a lot to do.
Yeah, I can say that the new goals have tried in different ways to address issues of critical concern to people with disabilities. The first goal is to end poverty. And poverty causes disability, and disability causes poverty. The moment you're able to address issues of poverty, you are addressing issues of people with disabilities.
It was there in the MDGs.
It was there in the MDG, but operationalization of the goals, as I said, was lacking. If there is buy-in from political actors, if there is buy-in by state and non-state actors, then you discover that the attainment of goal 1 will be, will increase, beyond what we had in MDG. Also, it speaks of inclusive education. Education all over the world, everybody's talking about inclusive education. When we talk about inclusive education, we are saying that no one must be left behind in terms of education. Education for all. That a person with disability will study in the same school with people without disabilities. With that, you are going to reduce stereotype, you are going to reduce marginalization, you are going to reduce isolation, you are going to reduce discrimination, you are going to create equal opportunity for all. If I could go to school with you, living with disability, you know my ability to perform in classroom. You quality attest that I quality perform in the workplace. So it opens access. Education has a way of reducing poverty. Do you understand? And ignorance, thereby reducing incidence of disability.
The follow-up and review process will be undertaken on an annual basis by the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development through an SDG progress report to be prepared by the Secretary General.
Taking the lead, to me, is one thing. Active participation by all of us is another. Because one of the things that SDG is raising is that we want to sort out the problem of poverty by 2030. We also want to address the issue of health by 2030. We also want to address the issue of food. So in totality, we are talking about sustainable livelihood. So if we are talking about sustainable livelihood, we are talking about the total person, the concept of humanity as the center of development. We're also talking about the type of house, sustainable housing. So there is a lot that needs to be done. So it's not just a question of who takes the lead. Yes, government has to take the lead, but all of us must be part of this process. That, to me, it's something we need to address.
The Sustainable Development Agenda builds on the successful outcome of the Conference on Financing for Development that was held in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia in July this year. It is expected that it will also positively influence the negotiations towards a new, meaningful, and universal agreement on climate change in Paris this December. As we say hello to the SDGs, we are continually reminded that we did not do well with the Millennium Development Goals. Possibly, these set of targets can solve majority of our problems, but it takes all of us to do our parts. On that, we close Earth for today. Don't forget to send your comments, questions, and stories you would like us to follow up. Our inbox, earthfall@channelstv.com, is always available. We will be back with you next week. From all of us here in Lagos, it's bye for now.